Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today is one of my favorite types of episodes. We're doing a book launch today, and we're welcoming back Gloria Feldt, who is the co-founder and president over at Take the Lead. And I'm proud to announce an author in our most recent Mission Matters book that we did with Women Connect for Good and Dr. Nancy. And I'm just completely thrilled to have you here, Gloria. Welcome back.
Thank you, Adam. And I must say that was quite an opening for this show. So I'm all pumped up now. This is like
I'll take that from you. I'll take that any day of the week. Fantastic. Well, we got a lot to talk about today. So, of course, I want to talk about Take the Lead. We're, of course, going to talk about the book, and we'll get into the Power Up Conference. I want to do a little bit of a recap on that, too, that amazing experience of when I came and also what to expect in the future from the conference. But before we do all of that, let's start with our Mission Matters Minute, where we share what we do and ask you what your mission is. So, Gloria, at Mission Matters, our aim and our goal is to amplify stories that we feel need to be heard from entrepreneurs, executives, organizations, and companies. That's our mission. Gloria, what mission matters to you?
My mission is for women to have full equality. And that really sums it up. Really, I've done it in many different ways in my life. But if I'm asked to boil it down to the core of this mission, it's always about advancing women and having gender equality.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that. And I know even though we've spoken before, we have a lot of new audience. So I do want to go a little bit further into that. So when you say you've been on this mission for a while in different areas and different facets and different platforms, maybe talk a little bit about that before we go further into the book.
Sure. Well, it started with the civil rights movement. In the 1960s. I always say, I'm very Googleable, so I just might as well go ahead and tell my age. It really doesn't matter. But it really started with the civil rights movement, in which I learned a couple of really important things. One is that people working together, even if they don't have a lot of formal power or any formal power, they work together and they have a clear mission. They can really accomplish things. Their mission matters, and they can accomplish great things. So I learned that. The other thing was just a more informal observation, which was that the women were doing all the frontline work. Men were getting all the credit and all of the leadership positions. Yeah. And I had this epiphany that, wait a minute, if there are civil rights, women should have them too.
Yeah.
And it was really at that point that I was very young and had small children, and I was just being a community volunteer. And it was at that point that I knew that whatever I did in life, I would be working toward having equality for women. And it wasn't too long after that the Equal Rights Amendment was passed out of Congress, and I got involved somewhat in that. I was teaching Head Start at the time, and I was planning on being a high school social studies teacher.
Yeah.
And I was, I had joined some women's organizations. I always say the League of Women Voters taught me everything about how you actually get things done, or how the government actually works. How you actually can have an impact on public policy. But I was finishing my teaching degree and about to do my student teaching when my professor suggested my final course was ecology. And my professor suggested that I do my term paper on the small new Planned Parenthood affiliate in West Texas. I was living in Odessa, Texas. If there are Friday Night Lights fans here, I just want you to know it's a real thing. My children all graduated from Permian High School, and football really is the center of the universe there. So I said, okay, all right. I'd learned a little bit about the organization when I was teaching Head Start, because one of my teaching colleagues, and believe it or not, her priest were both her Catholic priest were both on the Planned Parenthood board at that time.
Wow. That's pretty progressive. Yeah.
It was very progressive, but their philosophy was, we're working with poor people. How can we tell them they have to have a baby every year because we can't feed them and clothe them? Help them know how to plan their families so that they can really take good care of their children.
Very
So
progressive at that time. Yeah.
very progressive at that time, very progressive. Anyway, so I wrote my paper and I submitted my paper, and literally 2 weeks later, the executive director who I'd interviewed called me and said, "I'm leaving. I think you should submit a resume."
Wow.
I had never spoken to this woman. I'd never met this woman before. I interviewed.
How large was the organization at this point? Just roughly,
Oh,
just to give just
They
to, I know it's a while.
had like 5 small clinics
Yeah.
in West
So
Texas.
when you say startup, it's startup at that point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was just like 3 years old,
Wow.
and it was Midland, Odessa, Big
Mhm.
Spring. No, they weren't in Big Spring yet. Anyway, they had like 5 little clinics in little West Texas towns.
Mhm.
They're all very small. And I don't even remember what the budget size was, but
Yeah.
it was minimal.
Of course.
But but so I thought, well, I've never had a formal job interview before. The jobs I've had, I have sort of just, they've happened, and because I was volunteering or something like that.
Yeah.
So it would be good experience. I'm in no danger of being hired because I know nothing about running an organization. I know nothing about this,
I'm in no danger of being hired. That's funny.
No danger. They would be fools to offer me this job. But anyway, I think I figured out why they did offer me the job, which was that like they would do national searches each year for 3 years, and they would hire someone who would come in from someplace else, and they'd get to Odessa, Texas, and they're like, "I'm out of here as soon as I can," and they would leave after a year. Well, I had been living in Odessa for a long time, so they assumed that I would be, I understood the community, understood the culture, and I would be staying there for a while, which was true. So that's how I got started. And fast forward 30 years later, I retired as the national president, having been CEO of the Arizona affiliate in between for 18 years. So that
when you left the organization, like roughly the size, would you say? Like,
when I left
roughly, I mean, like,
well,
just so people, I mean, I can't glance over a 30-year career like that as a cliff note. Come on, Gloria. I don't want to assume. Are you kidding me? I'm not going to let you off the hook like that.
Well, I had the privilege of growing that tiny West Texas affiliate into a medium-sized, really well-functioning affiliate. And then I went to Arizona, where I grew a sort of an underperforming middle-sized affiliate into one of the 3 or 4 largest in the country.
Wow.
And at that time, I guess, I don't know, our budget was approaching maybe, I don't know, 6 or 7 million, which was kind of real money in the 1990s. And we were serving, I can't even, like 60,000 patients or something like that. And we had 16 clinics. And we had expanded our services greatly. And then at the national organization, I took over at a time when things were not real great, either financially or otherwise. And I had the opportunity to grow that as well. We pretty much doubled our budget. And by the time I left, the overall national organization was pretty much about $1 billion, I would say. So it was one of the biggest nonprofits in the country.
Yeah, that's amazing career. And when I was thinking about you actually recently when I went to go, I was talking about my mother and some other things that had to do with her. And I remember, so she was the second employee at Covenant House, Michigan, the first one being a gentleman by the name of Dr. Joseph. And I remember when I think about my childhood, moving them in, like literally being like, I don't know, 15, 16, carrying desks in and stuff like that. Like, cause it was very much a startup for that market. And now I look, they've helped thousands and thousands of people in that market. And they have now different centers and all these other things. And with helping, helping youth in that area. And I'm thinking about what it looks like and what it's like to dedicate your life and, decades to building an organization and nonprofit. And I was just, you were on my mind for that one. I was like, oh my gosh, it's amazing, the people that do these things.
It's very gratifying. I will say, I feel like I've been very lucky to make my life's passion into my life's work, but it wasn't over. It wasn't over.
Oh no.
When I left, I thought I seriously wanted to sort of semi-retire.
Yeah.
I was planning on writing books, making speeches, and, I called it piecework, doing a little consulting here and there and having a much quieter life. Well, so one of the books that I wrote, because I became obsessed with trying to figure out why women hadn't reached parity in leadership, even though we had opened doors and changed laws. And we'd seen a woman first almost everything. But women were still about less than 20%, actually 18% across the board in the top leadership of every single sector.
Mm.
And what clicked for me was realizing that, if you don't have equal positions of leadership and
Mhm.
therefore equal power and probably equal pay, by the way,
Mhm.
we would keep fighting the same battles over and over and never win them.
Mm.
And I feel like that just lit a new fire under
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
to not just figure out the why, but the what do you do about it? So I
Mhm.
wrote a book about that called No Excuses: 9 Ways Women Can Change How We Think About Power.
Mhm.
And people started asking me to teach workshops, leadership workshops, using
Yes.
what I had written in this book. Well, okay, that's kind of fun because I started out as a teacher. I figured, well,
Work.
okay, I'll just
Yeah.
teach a little bit again. It was so fun and it was so wonderful to see when I helped women
Mm.
shift their thinking about power
Mhm.
from an oppressive idea of the power over, which has been the narrative of history,
Mhm.
war and fighting and the assumption of scarce resources,
Yeah.
to a generative, creative, innovative way of thinking about power as the
Mm.
power to do your own innovating and creating and make life better for your family, your community, yourself, the world, your company. And I would say that to women, and it seemed so simple, but it
Mm.
was like this huge, it was like a mask would fall off of their
Yeah.
faces. And they had been sort of like holding back. And even those women who had been trying to rise
Yeah.
in the workforce, they were often like they were like the only woman in the room very often.
Mm.
And it
Mm.
was really hard. And they were in organizations that had a culture that they did not create.
Yeah.
So it didn't feel welcoming to them. And so they were often not happy with what they were doing. Well, as soon as I told them how to reframe power,
Mm.
it's just like it opened up
Yeah.
it just liberated them to
Why
think.
do you think that is? And I mean, and I know it's going to be different from person to person,
Yeah.
but is it almost like being given permission or the knowledge or the, like, I don't want to use that word. That's not the right word, but like, why do you think that is? Because I know exactly what you're talking about in that feeling, but why do you think that is for so many women?
I think we all, men and women, grow up in the same culture.
Mm.
And so we ingest the same biases.
Oh, yeah.
We ingest the same biases.
Kind of like programming. Like
It,
even if you don't know it's happening, but it's still happening. Even
but it's
even if
still,
you do. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so it's not an evil plot. It's just how human beings are.
Mm.
And so I think it's, as women, we are so socialized to, if you think of it, if you have a boy child and a girl child,
Yeah.
that the little boys come out of the womb bouncing around, knowing they own
Mm.
the world. They have no, they make noise, they're
Yeah.
messy, and everybody just thinks that's so cute.
Yeah.
And a little girl, people say, "Oh, she's so cute. She's so pretty.
Mhm.
Isn't she nice? She sits quietly. She
Yeah.
stands in a row at school."
Mm.
Some of those characteristics, it turns out, serve a women very well
Yeah.
because those are the things that actually help us do really well in school. For example,
Mhm.
we learn reading more quickly. We are able to sort of like integrate into
Mhm.
to the school life more easily, and we make good grades. We make better grades by and
Yeah.
large. But the downside of it is
Yeah.
that it's also very restrictive. Women
Yeah.
often think they have to be perfect
Mhm.
in order to be qualified. The
Mhm.
statistics are that if a man sees a job description and he can do one or two things, he will apply.
Yep.
If a woman sees that she can only do, if she doesn't think she can do 80 or 90%, she
Mm.
will not apply.
Yeah.
Because we have been conditioned to feel like we have to be perfect.
Yeah.
And perfection is the enemy of the good, as they say. So
Mm.
I think those are the reasons why, Adam.
Mm.
I think, it's not hardwired. It is
Yeah.
not hardwired. It is culturally learned.
Yeah, I see that, and I'll use this word for myself. I don't wanna project this on you, but one of the reasons that for Mission Matters and the amount and the interviews we do and the types of guests we bring on is I feel that by other people hearing other people's stories in similar ways to how you're teaching the 9 different steps, which we'll get into as well. The number 9 comes up often in your narrative. So we'll get into as well. But I feel like sometimes that connection or people hearing like a shared interest or a shared story, it almost gives people permission, like for whatever they're doing. If they're an entrepreneur, if they want to be an activist, if they want whatever they want to do, like it gives them permission almost to be like, oh, there's somebody else out there that is like me or has that same type of background, or they were able to do something and look, oh, I can do that too. So I love that. I love it. I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think the fact that you were able to also kind of systematize that into your teaching and into your program so that you could maybe scale that to a larger audience that could then even empower more and more people. Like, I think that's an amazing thing.
It's exactly right. And I would add to it that, I get really tired of telling my own story of being a teen mom in West Texas and blah, 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 blah. I'm starting to
I don't get tired of hearing it. It's all good.
To college after I had 3 kids, and I get really tired of telling that story, but I have learned it is important to share things like that, because often the other thing is that people feel ashamed and embarrassed if they didn't do things the quote, right way or normal way. And the truth is, I always say, it doesn't matter where you start. Just start anywhere, wherever you might be. And so it turns out that it is actually, for me, kind of a superpower not to have been like everybody else, but to have known what it felt like to be kind of weird and other and not, not live my life the way people were supposed to live their lives. Go, finish high school, go to college, marry, blah, 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 do all these things in the proper sequence. Well, you can make your life good regardless. And even whatever mistakes you make, learn from them, get up and move on, and consider it a blessing.
Yeah. It's great. So I want to let's switch it up a bit. I want to get in to spend some of the time we have here talking about the new book. Yes. So first off, how fun. And I'm just so grateful to Dr. Nancy, Women Connect for Good, and like just bringing this project together. Like, how about the group? I wanted to start with, how about the group of authors that were assembled? Like, obviously, when I saw you and I'm reading the book and it goes chapter after chapter, and when I seen all of the rest of the authors, I'm like, I'll tell you a quick story. When I read the final draft before I was like, so they compile everything for me, and I read it and I'm going through, I'm like 1 chapter and 2 chapters and 3 chapters in, I'm tearing up a little bit. I'm a little misty-eyed, and we don't like we're business content normally. This was us taking I think a leap forward in terms of thinking about like really elevating other missions outside of business alone. But I was a little misty-eyed, and I told the managing editor, Hillary, I'm like, hey, Hillary, you should have warned me. I shouldn't have been reading this like Saturday morning thinking it was going to be a light read. it was deep. Can you talk about just maybe that concept of like the collaboration component of this?
Right. Well, first of all, with a big shout out to Dr. Nancy O'Reilly, which is, if she has one mantra that she says over and over and over again, it is, we have to lift each other up, and women need to support other women. And so really, by collecting us all up to share our leadership tools and tips and our knowledge and our inspiration, that's exactly what she was doing. And of course, she's also one of the authors, but the fact that she was so excited to meet you, Adam, and to learn about how you put these books together. And she saw immediately the power in being able to have, mostly these are all of the groups that Nancy supports with her foundation. And so we're already like-minded, because, we're all passionate about a mission. And so regardless of how we implement that, of course, we're pretty much all passionate about something. So, and
it's such a fun community. This is the first time, like we've published over 400 authors. You may or may not know that, but we published over 400 authors, and this is the first book we put together, where obviously we're bringing a lot of the community together, and they feed off of different things we do, events or otherwise. This is the first time I've been part of a project where I'm like, whoa, like step back, like, oh, what's going on here? There's a conference here, a conference over there. And the outside of the book and outside of Mission Matters, like the community that's been built around like the missions that everybody's, having from their own angle and supporting women and progress. They're supporting each other in all their different events, whether I seen Tiffany coming to your event or you going to hers, or like what they're doing in Washington, or all the pictures. I can't keep up with this book. I can't, Gloria. I'm like, man.
Well, your observation is exactly right. I mean, a number of us who are authors in this book have been colleagues and friends, and people who have had similar but different missions and have supported each other along the way. And so that's part of the really fun aspect of this. And actually, I mean, I really want to have a book party in New York for it.
I'm in. I'm looking for an excuse. So let's do it. You tell me and I'll do it. We already hit up DC. We hit up we obviously LA is going to be some more stuff coming out there, and I'm in.
I actually happen to love giving book parties, and I just think people love books and they love meeting the authors of books.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would
they're fun.
But it sort of leads me back to where I didn't finish that part of my trajectory, which is the book No Excuses ended up forming the basis for the organization Take the Lead, which is a nonprofit organization that I co-founded now just a little over 10 years ago. We're celebrating our 10th anniversary this year, and I'm so glad you were at our 10th anniversary conference and concert. And it was really great.
Talk a little bit about that. Superwoman was there, other than you and Dr. Nancy, two other superwomen, but the other superwoman was there too. Like talk a little bit about that.
All right. Okay. Well, because it was our 10th anniversary, we thought we would splurge a little bit. And so we had the concert at the Kennedy Center, which just took it up several notches. It was just wonderful to be in that venue. It was fabulous. And yes, our honoree, our leading woman honoree, was Linda Carter, the Wonder Woman character that most people know. I mean, there have been other people who have played that part now, but she's kind of the one who defined it for our generations. And she was terrific. She gave an amazing speech. She also sings, but she didn't sing at our concert. I was hoping she might sing as well, but we played some of her music, so everybody heard some of her music. Anyway, we had three different.
Betty was there though, and some of the others. I follow some of them on Instagram now. Oh my gosh, so obsessed. They're great. They're amazing.
I know. We had these three completely different genres of music. And it was amazing. We had concert pianist Marina Arsenievich. We had indie pop group Betty, and we had Sweet Honey and the Rock, who were just like the icons of DC, a cappella choir, social justice oriented, very much so. And the three of them loved working together. They were like, well, we want to take this show on the road. So I don't know. We'll see. But then the next day we had the conference part, in which we had panels, and the topics were, our theme was Together We Lead. Yep. And so we had the panels, Together We Lead for Health, Together We Lead for Wealth, Together We Lead for Telling Your Story. And that's the one you were on. Together We Lead for all kinds, we kind of went through the day following that model. And it was a great day. It was a great day. We had some wonderful speakers and lots of really powerful, not just inspiration, but we always ask our speakers to give people some concrete takeaways. Because, sometimes you go to a conference and you get inspired and then you walk away and it's like eating cotton candy. Yep. Like no nutrition there. Yeah. But
it's like a rush, but no nutrition. Yeah.
Yeah, right. But I'm like, again, the teacher in me wants people to have some actionable takeaways, some actionable learning that they've had from the conference. And that was the first year we had done it in Washington, D.C. And we're going to do it there again next year.
That was also my first, just a little fun fact, my first visit to Washington, D.C. Just FYI. I'd never even been. Yeah, that was amazing. I was like, oh, you finally got me here. Thank you.
That's good in and of itself. And what I discovered was, because I've been in Washington, D.C. a lot, but it was always for political things that were
Mm,
happening.
mm,
Well, I got to know the women's community in DC. There is a
mm.
phenomenal women's community, particularly
Really?
of entrepreneurs, and they are wonderful. So we
Mm.
want to build on that. And our date for the conference, everybody put this on your calendar now.
Yeah.
Everybody put this now, because our date for the conference is always Women's Equality Day,
Mhm,
August 26th.
mhm,
And we haven't decided yet whether we'll do the concert the night before or the same day, but we've done it both ways.
mhm.
We just haven't figured that part of it out. But
Yeah.
put August 26th on your calendar and be prepared to be in DC and really highlight the importance of Women's Equality Day.
Amazing. And and one thing that I do want to get a little bit further into, because it also relates to the book, of course, is, and I was just so impressed, was when I was at the conference, and you may not know this, we haven't really recapped it, like, about my experience there, but at the tables and just talking and just having general conversations, was that many of the women that had been through some of your programs, and they were all speaking the same language about power tools and
Mhm.
like what that means. And so when you talk about substance, I got to see the benefit, and I got to see real time having conversations, and I'd be like, oh, how do you know Gloria, or how do you know that? And they'd be talking about the programs and like what it's done and what a difference it's made in their career, their life, and their trajectory. Can you maybe talk about that, because that all ties into it? And in the book, I know you wrote about the 9 leadership power tools to advance your career, 9 leadership power tools for entrepreneurs. And then so I know we talked a bit about some of this, but like, can you get into that high level, like the program and what that looks like?
Sure. So, whatever the topic is,
Mhm.
whatever the industry is that we're working with,
Yeah.
the core program always has these components. First of all, there is that transformation of how you think about power. I call that
Mhm.
the power concepts. So
Yeah.
we start with that. Then there are the 9 leadership power tools.
Mhm.
And those are really actionable things that I learned along the way. This
Mm.
program is not your basic nuts and bolts leadership program,
Yeah.
because there are plenty of those out there. But I wanted to just do the things that I've found in my
Mhm.
whole career did not get taught to me in any leadership program. And
Mm.
they're the ones that are most important, as it turns out, because you have to know yourself. The
Yeah.
best leaders know themselves very deeply, and they show themselves to their people.
Mm.
And if you're not comfortable with yourself, you can't do that.
Mm.
So there's the power tools fall into 3 distinct buckets. One are the self-definitional tools, and those really get into know your history, define your own terms,
Mhm.
how do you want the world to know you, and assessment of what is the power and what are the strengths that you bring.
Yeah.
So here's what you've got. The second bucket is what I call the counterintuitive power tools. And these are the things you've often been told not to do.
Mhm.
But I teach people how to embrace controversy and use it in a positive way
Yeah.
to get to better solutions. And same with chaos, carpe the chaos, and then
Mhm.
also wear the shirt. In other words, let people know your values, your
Mm.
deepest values, because people follow people who have a point of view. They
Yeah.
really respect you if you know what your belief system is and you share it with them. And
Mm.
then there are the change leadership tools, which are a little bigger systemic kinds of things, like how do you create a movement?
Mm.
And I don't mean walking around with picket sign. I mean, how
Yeah.
do you like organize people around you who think like you, who would support you and share
Mm.
your concerns? How do you have the courage to actually talk about those issues?
Mhm.
How do you build your strategy so you go to where the points of power are, and you can make change by doing that together?
Yeah.
So there's that. There's employ every medium, which is like what Mission Matters does. You have. I noticed in the material that was sent to me for this meeting, we're streaming on like 5 different
Oh
platforms.
yeah. Oh yeah. We work around here.
Be posting everywhere. Employ every medium. You are
Yeah.
the medium, and you are the message. And then the 9th power tool is tell your story. Tell
Mm.
your story, because your story is really your power and your truth.
Mm.
And so those are the 9 leadership tools. And then, so we've got the power concepts, the 9 power tools. Then each person who goes through the course creates her own strategic leadership action plan.
Mm.
and it has to be measurable and accountable. And we follow up for about 3 months to see if they're actually working on their plan.
Yeah.
And then I think one of the secret sauce really is that we also create a community for each one of these courses or cohorts. So it's having that support group really helps. And we've found that some of the Facebook groups that we set up 8 years ago, 9 years ago, 10 years ago, the women are still in touch with each other. And
wow.
support each other. They go drinking together.
That's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Help. They'll call on their sisters. So that's what I learned from that's what I learned from teaching. When you teach, you learn.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I learned. Yeah. Was, it's really the relationships that you create that are the most important thing. So now I have this whole course that I can it is now available on our website, and I'll put it in the chat. It's now available as a self-study online course, an entrepreneur version and on the leadership track in an organization version, so that people can tap into that knowledge anytime they want to. They can have all of it. It makes it very, very affordable and very accessible. So that's the next step.
It's great. Well, Gloria, I gotta ask, what's next? I mean, I know you got a lot more going on. Summit on Women in Wealth and Power. You got entrepreneurship program. You mentioned the Power Up. I mean, give me the updates. Like, I can't keep track. Okay. You're very active on social media, by the way. Everybody follow Gloria's Instagram and leave that too. And but what's next? What's next?
Well, I just have to put in a plug for this because you were talking about my energy level, and I do have a very high energy level, but I'm also now blessed with having a digital twin that one of my board members created, and you probably saw the.
Oh yeah, your digital twin. I remember now. Yes, they presented it at the conference.
I am now beginning to understand the value of it because it is going to democratize all of this vast body of knowledge research that I've created over the years. And so in the next couple of years, that digital twin really is going to be a resource for anybody to ask questions of me. And the me that I, but anyway,
or just hang out with you. How are you doing, Gloria? Like,
have a glass of wine together, whatever.
A little widget.
And so there's that. But early next year, the two programs we have on the drawing boards right now are a smaller conference in Arizona called Women, Wealth, and Power. And that's sort of the next step of once you know your power to what? You know your power, and you've been able to elevate yourself in leadership. So what if you're not doing some kind of good for the world? So and the importance for women of understanding the power of building wealth and why we should think about building wealth and not be like me. I never negotiated for my salary. I just was happy when I could get direct deposit of my money in the bank, and I didn't have to even look at it. No, that wasn't the way to be. That wasn't the way to be. We really need to think more proactively about our wealth and what we want it to mean for us and our families. And then the other one is kind of an outgrowth of our entrepreneur program, which we did last year and part of it this year called 50 Women Can Change the World in Entrepreneurship. And so we have been asked by JP Morgan Chase in Arizona to partner with them. They have a really good program that's very nuts and bolts for small businesses.
Yeah.
They don't have any of the mindset elements that I just shared with you. So we're to put these two things together and create a really cool course that will be free and available to people in Phoenix, in the Phoenix area. So there's that. But I will tell you that the experience that you just described of being with so many of the women who have been through our programs, because we honored a number of them at our conference, and to hear them talk. And I realized, what our biggest asset is the thousands of women who have been through Take the Lead programs. And so we are working to develop a way to have them be able to create their own programming locally, wherever they might be.
Wow.
And really, really exponentially multiply the reach and the power of what we're doing. And I feel like, like smack up the side of the head. Why didn't I think of that before? but
it's an evolution. No, these things
yeah,
are evolutions. I won't say a smack up the side of the head. I'll just say that like it's an evolution. Like
it,
visions
it,
get bigger, things happen. Like if you'd have thought I thought I was gonna be a podcaster, they didn't have that when I was even in school. What are you talking about? Like I've done over 6,000 interviews. What? How? Yeah, if I would have thought of like a million things.
exactly. Yeah. So, all of these people, we're going to be inviting them to actually
Amazing.
help co-create this whole plan, and it'll
Wow.
probably take all of next year to get it up and off the ground.
Yeah.
But I feel like that, right now, women are really hungry for something like that, and it creates the connection, and it also gives them the power
Mm-hmm.
to use their power to create their own programming.
Yeah.
Go out there, let 1,000 flowers bloom.
Amazing. Final question, Gloria. If somebody is listening or watching this and they want to follow up, they want to learn more about the book's easy. That's going to be in the show notes. So we'll have a link for you in the show notes, or anybody that's looking, it's on Amazon, all that good stuff. But about the Power Up Conference, following you, your amazing newsletter, like how do they get involved?
Well, I just put into the chat several things that people can just click, copy and paste and use. I personally am at Gloria Feldt on every social media platform that I'm on.
Yeah.
So you just have to remember there's a DT. The last two letters. Feldt is FELDT, which is kind of trips people up sometimes. But so I am there, and I am very responsive. I actually do my own social media, and I respond to my own social media. I really shouldn't be using my time that way, but it gives me pleasure, so I do it. And then Take the Lead on social media is at Take Lead Women on some of them, depends on like Instagram and Twitter and the ones that you can't have as many letters. But on LinkedIn and Facebook and some of the others, it's at Take the Lead Women. The website is taketheleadwomen.com. My personal website, again, is just my name, gloriafeldt.com. And actually there you can find out about the next book that I wrote after the 9 Ways Women Can Change How We Think About Power book. No Excuses. There's a book called Intentioning that has an additional 9 leadership tools in it. So then you could have like 18 leadership. Everything I know about leadership is there. And and then I also put into the chat, and you can also find it through our website, is as if you're interested in taking the course, the online course. So there's that link is there. And just a little tip here, which is, we have Black Friday and Cyber Monday coming up. So there are going to be some really good deals on that course in the next few days. So keep looking, and I'd really welcome to have many of your listeners join.
Amazing. Well, Gloria, again, thank you so much for all you do and for being a part of the Mission Matters family and participating in the recent book release and everything else that you're doing. I'm excited to continue to be involved with Take the Lead and to continue to build. I think what you're doing is amazing. And for the audience, everybody tuning in, we'll definitely put some links in the show notes so that you can go check out the website. Definitely check out Gloria on social media, too. Very active, great content. And if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show. Each and every day, we're bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way on your journey as well. So again, hit that subscribe or follow button. And Gloria, thanks again for coming on.
It's a pleasure, Adam. Thank you for having me.